What's going on, Star Wars fans?
Hello there.
We are here with another episode of Star Wars Jedi Chat. We are super excited for our guest today. She's blowing up on YouTube, Instagram, social media. Please help me welcome CARLY King.
What's up, everybody?
How
so glad
are
to
you?
be here.
Awesome. We are so happy to have you on this.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it anytime.
It's been awesome watching everything on social media. You're just killing it right now. So it's really cool to have you on here. So thank you so much for your time and coming on here and talking Star Wars with us. It's what we do.
Of course. Well, likewise, I love seeing, I watched your interview with Amy Allen and Laurie Mary Kim. So I'm honored to be included in that lineup.
Oh, I mean, your lightsaber stuff is phenomenal. If I'm sure everybody that's on this is already a fan of yours and is already watching your stuff. I mean, you have over 200,000 followers on Instagram. That's pretty cool.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Thank you.
Martial arts as well. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I've been doing martial arts for about 10 years of my life or so. And yeah, started in Taekwondo. I guess we can dive more into that later if you want to,
Yeah.
But been doing Taekwondo my whole life, and then recently took a break from that, and now I'm doing Kung Fu.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you're also an actress?
That's right. Yep. Studying voice acting as well currently. And yeah.
Awesome. We're going to actually have James Arnold Taylor on here shortly.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, I love James.
Yeah.
He's so sweet. He's
Such a great guy.
Down to earth guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a friend of a friend, and I saw him at one of the cons I
Mhm.
did a few months ago, and we talked and stuff. So we're going to get him on here shortly and talk to him
Nice.
about Star Wars too. So
That'll be great. I hope he does all of his voices, his many, many voices.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy.
He's nuts. He's nuts.
Let's get into a couple things. Unfortunately, we'll talk about the Acolyte cancellation and a few
Yeah.
other things and some of the stuff that's coming out with Skeleton Crew.
Mhm.
Give everybody a little bit of a background of your Star Wars history, you know, how you started. I'm not sure if you're a prequel kid. Let everybody know how you got started in Star Wars.
For sure. Well, I'm 23, so normally people would be like, "Oh, you grew up with the prequels," but I grew up with the originals, the core 3, and as a kid, my parents, of course, were into it. My dad was a bit more of a Trekkie, and I was always like, "I don't want to watch Star Trek. I want to be a Star Wars fan." But now I love Star Trek. Side note, I
Yeah.
do love Star Trek. Yeah, so my uncle actually, his family, they used to work for a museum, and they would have tons of life-sized Star Wars statues just around the house. Like they have the original Don Post, Boba Fett, a lot of Don Post, and original sideshow stuff. I mean, you name it, he has it. But as a kid growing up, you're 3 years old looking up at these giant statues of Jar Jar Binks, and you're like, what are these creatures and how do I love them? How do I learn more about them? So my parents' family got me into, the originals, and I immediately fell in love with Greedo and,
Nice.
and R2D2, as many kids do. And yeah, I mean, as soon as I fell in love with that, my parents got me an R2D2 tank tops t-shirt. I would wear it every single day. I wish I still had it because I would wear it now still, even though it probably doesn't fit. I had Darth Vader shoes, the kids Skechers. I loved Star Wars as a kid. So throughout my life, I've always loved it, but you go through life and you kind of fall out of love with things. You aren't as much of a super fan as you were as a kid, And then quarantine rolls around, and this is post sequels, and I had watched the sequels and I sat through them, and they were movies that I watched. I don't hate them. I'm not a sequel hater, but they were definitely movies.
Yeah.
And it did spark that, feeling that I got as a kid that was like, wait, Star Wars is actually really cool. And so eventually quarantine rolls around, and like everyone is, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, you have nothing to do, can't leave the house. So I ended up sitting down and watching all the originals, all the prequels, all the sequels, and then got into the Clone Wars again. Because of course, growing up as a kid in the early 2000s, like you would wake up in the morning and Clone Wars would be on the TV while you're eating cereal. And
Mm-hmm.
so I loved Clone Wars, but I never actually sat down until then to watch it all the way through. So rewatched Clone Wars, Rebels, um, Mandalorian, and that's when Mando was like firing out new episodes and when the Luke scene happened. So that really sparked a feeling in me that was like, wait, I really, really love Star Wars. And, I went back to how I felt as a kid and now I'm sitting in my house like way too many Star Wars, not enough Star Wars things, but definitely a lot. And now I'm here.
That's awesome. And what a cool story. Most of the time, like you said, someone your age would have grown up on the prequels or,
Right.
Clone Wars or Rebels or something like that, which I think that's still cool because, again, that's sort of what
Mhm.
Nick grew up on,
Yeah.
Right.
but I was the OG, and
Mhm.
went to the movie in 1977, the day it opened, which was really cool. But I think it's neat for someone your age to sort of just go through that history, and
Mhm.
see it in release date instead of chronological order. So that's
Right.
that's pretty cool. And we've talked about that before on here, where it does at some point it gets sort of nerdy, and it's like you're not going to be, in school or high school, and people are gonna,
Yeah.
so. But then for me, when the prequels were starting to get announced and stuff, I really started getting back into it again. So it
Mhm.
was it was cool for me to see that. And now, like you said, with everything else coming out with Mando and all these live actions, it's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting more Star Wars than we could ever even imagine right now. And I feel like a lot of people take that for granted.
Yeah, what a time to be around, when
Mm.
you get reinvigorated when you saw the movies again in quarantine and then you have all this stuff available, you know. We've
Yeah.
talked about it before, but when I was a kid, that was it, you know.
Hmm.
You had that was like right before the Clone Wars had come out. That was it, and you had the old Clone Wars stuff, which was
Hmm.
awesome, but it was really short. And if you
Yeah.
missed it, you didn't see it again. It
Yeah.
wasn't back on. So
Yeah.
what a time to
Because
be
we didn't
around
have
for us.
Disney Plus back
Yep.
then. We had DVDs and TV.
Yep.
And you had to wait until the
You had to
DVDs
wait.
came out.
And wait till they
Yep.
decided to do something. It was never
Yep.
guaranteed that we'd get any more Star Wars. But
Yeah.
now here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah,
Here we are.
and I think Disney has done a good job. There is some hate, and unfortunately, we don't do that. Or fortunately, we don't do that here. It's
Yeah.
all positive stuff, and I'm very similar in your reaction to the sequels. I thought they
Mhm.
were cinematically, they were amazing.
Beautiful.
Easter eggs,
Incredible.
yeah.
Yeah.
Easter eggs were
Yeah.
amazing. It was so cool for
Hmm.
me to see some of those things that brought me back to the OG. We can't change anything. I'm not going to hate on it. It's a
Right.
story that's out there, and it is what it
Mhm.
is at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I heard it once before and I wish I remembered where I heard it, but Star Wars is like telling stories around a campfire. It's stories from a galaxy far, far away. I mean, things are going to be misconstrued and looked at through different lenses and different sunglasses. And I feel like people are forgetting the fact that it's a fantasy, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I actually think Filoni said that, to be honest with you.
Oh, he
I feel
did.
like, yeah.
Filoni's,
Yeah,
he's the
there you
goat.
go.
He's
Yeah.
the goat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. With everything that is coming out, we're able to continue to watch it. And Disney has done some great stuff.
Yeah.
Most of the live action stuff that's come out, I've loved.
Mhm.
And some of the other stuff is just still amazing. So
Mhm.
I'm really happy that we're doing that. And talking about the live action stuff, we'll get into this right now. Unfortunately, we all heard today or yesterday that the Acolyte got canceled, and I
Mhm.
was a huge fan of it. I liked it. There was some things in there that we're not going to love everything that comes out,
Yeah.
but for me, I mean, most of that was phenomenal. And again,
Yeah.
Plagueis at the end,
That was
was
crazy.
so cool to see that.
I have a lot of thoughts about it. And first thing I'll say is like a lot of people harked on the writing. But if you go back to the early 2000s, we get a line in the prequels that literally states, I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough, irritating, and it gets everywhere. And nobody complains about that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's, you know, of course, with the Acolyte, like overall, I really enjoyed my time watching it. I loved it. And of course, there are things that I didn't like about the show. And like, I could go on and on about, nitpicking the different things, but I don't really want to spend my time doing that, you know? So I agree with you. Like, I loved it and I love talking about it. And yeah, it sucks to see that the story won't be told
Yeah.
continued. Like hopefully, a miracle happens where we'll get more context to the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's a similar thing that happened with the sequels. Like we didn't get a lot of context surrounding it. Like I want to see Rey's story continue to be told. I don't want it to just end there.
Mhm.
Same with, May and Osha. Like I don't want their story to just be stopped. What about Plagueis? What about
Yeah.
Chimera?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it sucks. It's a tragedy.
Yeah. It's interesting too because I get we have talked about this before, but I had thought that I had heard prior to the Acolyte being, even the trailers coming out, that it was its own thing, like it was a
Mhm.
isolated season.
Right.
And then there was an article like while it was being released about Leslie Hyland talking about how it's kind of its own story for this season and she would love to do more,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
kind of gave the impression that the season would sort of resolve on itself, and if they could make more they would love to. I'm surprised with the way it did end, that now it's canceled, because I didn't know it was up for canceling. I thought it was up for renewal,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and then I was
I
surprised to see it end that way and be like, oh, I don't know where we're gonna go from here. I thought this was it, and then I'm
right.
surprised they cut it at that time. But
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm still curious. Like, did it actually get canceled? What was it set up for renewal and it just got canceled, or were the like deadline just looking for a headline?
yeah,
It's hard to tell because we're not hearing it directly from Lucasfilm or directly from Disney.
Yeah.
I'm still very like I don't want to believe it, you
yeah.
know.
I think vocabulary is key there because
Mhm.
canceled makes it seem like a victory for all the backlash that all of
Yeah.
these people were giving it, which I think was on the most part pretty unfair.
Mhm.
But then, if they're still working on it, that doesn't mean it's canceled. If they're still trying to figure out what to
Mhm.
do with it, they could be doing many different kinds of things. But I would agree with you guys that I enjoyed a lot of it. There were some things that weren't for me, but that's with everything. And I felt like, to your point about the writing, to the people that I saw really going after it, I think any one of us three could take the sort of big picture narrative points and say, hey, this is a show about all of these things. Do you want to see it? And they'd be like,
Mhm.
absolutely, I need to see that. That's still writing. Like, that's still the
Yeah.
story of this thing that was very interesting. I don't know if what I would like to see, I don't know about you guys, I don't know if the 8-episode format is working for Star Wars shows. I think they need either more episodes or longer episodes, and I feel like
Yeah.
that kind of maybe got some steam out of the Acolyte. I don't know what you guys think, because I
Mhm.
felt like having 30 to 35 minutes at a time felt like it was having to pack a lot
It
in.
felt
Yeah,
yes, I agree with you. Yeah. I mean with Mando we got 8 episodes and it seemed substantial, but that's because each episode was like 45 minutes
yeah,
long, at least in the first and second season. And I think was season 3 like that too? I'm trying to remember. It felt like it went by really
yeah.
fast, the third season. But anyways, yeah, I feel like the show could have had more time to get its footing had we gotten more time throughout the episodes.
Hmm.
Because there were times whenever the episode would end and I'd be like, that's it. Like, I
Yeah,
have to wait an entire week to know the context behind this. And
Yeah.
then it would be like a flashback. And I'm like, but what happened in that earlier? And then I'd have to wait another week. And that kind of caught me off guard where I was just like kind of slowed down by it. But I mean, we have like a hard pivot, but like we have never gotten lightsaber combat like that
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
since like Duel of the Fates and Battle of the Heroes. Like we haven't gotten.
it was phenomenal. And even the death scenes, we
Mhm.
haven't got anything like that from Disney until Deadpool just
Mm-mm.
came out with Wolverine. But
Yeah.
that was crazy. I think
Yeah.
that was what got some of the haters to like it, especially I think it was
Mhm.
episode 5 when all
Yep.
that happened. So you
Yes.
saw people start to turn a little bit, and
Yep.
it is very disappointing. But I do think
Mhm.
whether it's Dave or Leslie or Disney, I think at some point you're going to have enough backlash from us that liked it to put
Yeah.
a comic out, to put
Mhm.
maybe a Tales of
Well, they are.
Chimere
They're
or
putting out the
whatever.
books. They have
Yeah.
like I remember they
Yeah.
announced at SDCC, they were like, we have 2 new books coming out. And then they have Manny at D23 like doing a whole panel. And then now we're getting it. It's like we're not moving forward with it anymore. And it makes me even more grateful for the fact that we are getting at least supplemental content
Mhm.
with the show.
Yeah, and I think that does help with Star Wars, because there is a lot of stuff
Mhm.
that we do
Yeah.
get, now with the certain point of view books,
Yep.
with the comics that are coming out, some more of the little
Mhm.
short cartoons like Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi, things like that. I
Yeah.
thought there was,
Which are fantastic.
oh my gosh, and
I haven't finished Tales of the Empire because I don't want to finish it. I want it to keep going.
I know,
I have extremely high hopes for Star Wars animation from
yeah,
now on because they just every time they do animation, they knock it out of the park fully. I mean, Bad Batch was incredible. I never fully watched season 3, but seasons 1 and 2 were phenomenal. Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, and even Visions.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
So season 1 was incredible, and like of course there were some that I like didn't like, but majority I liked them because they were just brand new and interesting. But I just watched season 2 of Visions for the first time like a week ago, and there are some animations in there that could be an entire movie or an entire like Clone Wars style multi-season show. And I don't know why they're not going forward with that because it's so good.
That first
But
one in season 2 is like breathtaking with all the
which one
color.
was that?
It's where, it's kind of all on white. And then whenever
Mhm.
the main character and her droid do anything, it kind of colors and she
Uh-huh.
like paints and stuff.
Oh, so we watched 2 episodes of it. I don't think we watched that one yet, but I'm gonna put
Okay.
it on the list. We watched the one with the girl who goes into like that dark cave
Mm-hmm.
and that terrifying like black shadow
Yeah.
figure woman like has it's the
Yeah.
scariest thing. It was giving me like Abeloth vibes.
Yeah. Where she's like
Full blown.
screeching.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that story like had me hooked and the animation style was beautiful. So it would be cool to get more of those characters. And even the one that absolutely blew me away was it was the same animation company that did The Legend of Korra. And I don't know why I'm blanking on it.
Was it the
I have
one
it.
with the water? Like where the Empire's like using the water of the plant, like stripping them of their
No,
water? Oh, sorry.
I think it's Journey to the Shadow Head or like Journey to the Black Head or like the
Oh,
it
I know
was
what you're talking. Where the two
do you know what I'm
heads are
talking
up there,
the
and
big
then
heads, yeah.
that was very
I'm
cool. Ron, have you seen these?
I haven't. That's the only thing I haven't. I'm not a huge anime, but I
I'm
do.
not either.
Everybody has told me, so which is cool because now
Mhm.
I have 2 seasons to watch
Yeah.
Yep.
in between
Yep.
now and Skeleton Crew.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's sort of fun for me. I'm immersed in everything except for the Legos. The games, I don't play them. I watch
Mhm.
after somebody's done like a whole thing. I'll download
Sure.
them on YouTube and watch them, and then
Mhm.
the anime. So I haven't. Those are the 2 seasons that I haven't done. But
Yeah.
before we
Yeah.
move on, I want to go back a little bit into the Acolyte because you got
Okay.
to meet Leslie.
I did.
And was that the same time that you met Dave as well?
So I had actually met Dave previously at the Godzilla -1 premiere.
Okay, because I love
out of
the
nowhere.
I love the reaction that you posted when he walks in the room, and it's just like, that's Dave Filoni. Oh my
I was
gosh.
so surprised. So I'll tell you the quick bridged story. I'm a huge Dave fan. Like I love his work. He's like a hero to me, and like the way he talks about Star Wars in such a respectable manner and like highly intelligent manner is just, inspiring. And, he grew up with George, like George was his mentor,
Yeah.
and then he was George's Padawan. So setting it up, I'm a huge Dave is like an inspiration to me. And I was thinking about it. I was like, do I want to go to the Godzilla -1 premiere? I mean, like I grew up with the Godzilla video games, but will I understand this movie having not seen the previous Godzilla movies? So it ended up being one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. Godzilla -1 was absolutely incredible. And I'm waiting around, kind of standing in like the common area where we're all, drinking. I'm drinking water.
Yep.
And everyone's mingling basically. And I'm with my friend Patrick, and Patrick is friends with Seth Green. So I'm hanging out with Seth Green, which is already insane to me because Robot Chicken, grew up with that.
Yeah.
And my friend goes, "Oh yeah, I heard Dave's gonna be here." And I'm like, Dave?
Dave who?
Like
Yeah.
Dave Grohl? Like, okay. And he's like, "Yeah, Filoni." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay." And I like it's a goal of mine to meet Dave at this point and talk to him about Star Wars and like meet him in a positive setting. And not like 2 minutes later, Dave walks in to like the common area, hatless. So it's like
Oh.
hatless Dave, which is crazy. Um and yeah, he comes up to us and we all start chatting, and I had like a good like 10-minute long conversation with him about Clone Wars, Ahsoka, which had just come out, and the strike had ended at that point,
Oh,
so you could
okay.
finally talk about it.
Yep.
So I told him how much I loved Balin and Shin and Ahsoka and the whole wolf
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it. We talked about sideshow figures and how there needs to be a Lothcat like Merly sideshow figure, and I think there is one. So
Okay.
and then we talked about Robot Chicken. So I couldn't have asked for a better experience with meeting him for the first time. But yeah, I had not seen him until the Acolyte,
Okay.
like that day that we had. And
And
also do you
sorry to interrupt. So you went
yeah,
to Lucasfilm to talk to them about the Acolyte?
so I was invited to their Acolyte round table, which was
Nice.
a group of creators that were invited to sit down and talk directly with Leslie about the show and what the show would be about, and yeah, the future of the Acolyte.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was invited to Lucasfilm with a group of other creators, and we had been bought in, and they were like, "All right, we're gonna meet in this theater first, and we'll chat with you about the day." We're like, "Okay, cool." And we walk into this theater. We sit in like the front row, expecting to just get like a talk, have like a talk with the director. I was like, "Is this
Mhm.
where we're gonna have the round table?" I was like clearly naive because there was no reason they would sit us down in the theater without showing us something. You
Yeah,
know what I
something's
mean?
happening.
Something's happening.
Yeah.
And they ended up surprising us with the first episode of The Acolyte.
Oh,
And we were
nice.
the first person, like the first group to see it a week before the premiere, which was like a week before the show aired. So we saw it like 2 weeks early. And I remember watching the first episode, and I loved it. And it was so cool to be able to watch it so freshly
Mhm.
because you didn't have outside sources influencing whether you should like it or not.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that's a big reason as to why I enjoyed it so much. And my initial reaction was like, Star Wars is weird again. This
Yeah.
is great. Star Wars is weird. It's different. They're trying new things, and I loved it for that. I was excited. I was just blown away by the first episode, and I really, really loved it. So then they gave us like a little tour of the Disney studio, and we got to go to the Lucasfilm headquarters here.
Had you ever
Yeah.
been before?
No.
Okay.
So I had never been to Lucasfilm before, and I couldn't even dream of going. So this was just a surreal experience. So we got to the headquarters and we kind of just like mingled for a bit. And then eventually they were like ready for us to all sit down and have the round table. So I go to sit down and there's like a bunch of chairs and the couch where Leslie and the moderator, Kristen Baver, was going to be sitting, who's amazing. And the one of the people at Lucasfilm was like, all right, you can just sit here. And I was like, okay. And I was just excited, but like they specifically told me to sit in this certain chair. And I was like, cool. Onward. And then Leslie comes in and Kristen comes in and we all sit down and we all start chatting, just getting to know each other. Leslie was so nice, like genuinely so nice, so passionate. You can tell she was down to earth and like wanting to put out a good Star Wars show, you know. You can tell when somebody is in it because they love it.
Oh, you
know?
can tell just by the way she answers questions about,
Mhm.
you know, the show itself that she's in.
Mhm.
She's in.
Mhm. She's definitely in. So yeah, she was so nice. And then like I remember she said something to me and then I laughed and I didn't notice, but apparently Dave had walked in and started saying, "Hey guys, hi everybody. Am I interrupting anything? Am I interrupting?" And I didn't even hear it because I was so focused on, you know, the talk. And everyone else is like, "Oh my God." And I can't see it because it's happening behind me. And that's exactly why they put me in that chair. It's so that
Oh.
I didn't know he would be walking in. So he literally jump scared me. He walked up to me in between, and I remember turning and then realizing it was Dave, Mr. Filoni, with the cowboy hat, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way, like, what's happening right? Like, my body, I teleported out of my body for a good moment. And I remember looking around at people at Lucasfilm being like, I was told this entire time that like Dave would not be here. Nothing would happen like that today, like nothing crazy. And then, of course, that happens. And it was just, it was so cool. And the fact that the icing, I don't remember any part of that conversation because I was such in shock. But it was crazy that he remembered me from the Godzilla premiere. I thought it was really cool. But he's so nice. He's just so down to earth. And
Seems that way.
he is. Yeah.
Yeah, I met him at Celebration 4 or 5.
Oh, really?
in
Was that in
2010.
Orlando?
Yeah, in 2010. It was my first celebration, and you could do the Jedi Master and the Jedi Knight. You know, you could buy the different passes, and I was lucky enough to get the Master. You know, you get your own little room where you get to put your stuff, and you get some perks and stuff. And each day have a little session at a certain time, and somebody would come. Peter Mayhew came in one time, and we got to have a chat with him. And there was only a few of us in there. I mean, there was like 15 people in there, and we're chatting with Peter Mayhew, which was
amazing.
so cool. And a couple other, you know, people, maybe somebody from, you know, Industrial Light and Sound, and then one of the days Dave came in, and you know, I mean, this was 14 years ago, you know, so Dave came in, and he wasn't the god that he is, but I thought so, you know. It was so
Of
cool
course, yeah.
that, you know, he came in, we had little posters, he drew a little Ahsoka on the poster that was about that big, and we got to talk to him, and it was just so cool, just so nice, so engaging. And talking Star Wars, and like you said, you know, we have the Master, and he's turned into the Jedi Knight for sure, you know, from George, and it was just so cool to see him in person and talk to him, because he is such a great person, and what he's done in the last 14 years has just been phenomenal.
It's amazing.
It's cool that you got to see him too and meet him, because he's just such a cool person.
It was nuts. I mean, I had always. I have one story that always sticks with me. So I grew up in Florida, like I'm from, you know, Northeast Florida. And so Star Wars weekends was a huge thing in my family. And I remember one year my uncle had gone with his family, my cousins, and one of my cousins and my uncle ended up riding Tower of Terror with Dave. Like they sat right next to Dave.
Oh,
That's cool.
And my cousin has like a whole story of how he rode Tower of Terror with Dave, and it's so funny. So yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
He's such a great person, and I'm glad that he's now getting the credit he deserves.
Oh yeah, and everything that's coming out, the new Mandalorian and Grogu stuff. I know we got almost 2 years, and everybody's excited about that. I know John's got a lot to do with that as well, but obviously Dave will be involved in that, which is phenomenal. And I think we will see some other stuff coming out here that he's going to have his hand in with that promotion that he got. I think it's fantastic, and I think that's going to help the Star Wars community, and I think it'll help Disney as well.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
So to go a little bit further back, you got to meet Ray Park and battle with him a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was in 2021.
Yeah, because you guys still had masks on, huh?
We still had masks on. They were like very particular about that at the time because it was still crazy. Yeah, I had learned like the day before. It was in Orlando, and I was pretty close to Orlando, so it was just a drive south. Yeah, I posted on my Instagram story like, does anyone want to go meet Ray Park with me tomorrow? Like, please somebody come with me because I can't do it alone. I was too nervous. And of course, Darth Maul is my favorite character of all time. Like, I have 2 Darth Maul Hot Toy figures. I have a Darth Maul tattoo. I'm obsessed with Maul. He's my favorite forever and always. Yeah, so Ray Park was doing a signing at this comic book store in Orlando, and I had to go. And so I signed up online, and the next day I found 2 of my friends that would go with me who lived in Orlando, and we all met up and we all went into the store, and it took a while because he wants to take the time with all of his fans to like chat with them, and he was very engaging with every single one of his fans, which was really cool. So eventually we get called up. We're like number 99 or something, and yeah, I come up to him and I'm like trying to remember the story because it was so long ago, but I remember bringing my Darth Maul saber to have him sign it, and I think he wrote like "The Force is strong," and then like Gray Park or something, or like Maul, Sith life or something. Maul. He was so nice, and I bought my long like staff saber with me, and I was like, I've been trying to learn one of your moves. It's where you are spinning it as like a figure 8, but then you step into it and you turn. And I was expecting to just kind of like show him hit and have him like just give me like a pointer, But he ended up giving me a full-blown saber lesson, which I was not expecting.
Whoa.
And he walked me through it, and I of course had to film everything, and I was losing my mind, but the fact that he took the time to do that was really, really cool. And I'll always remember that moment. But that was my first time and only time ever meeting Ray, unfortunately. So I'll have to catch him at another convention soon and show him my updated skills.
Yeah,
absolutely. You're becoming a pretty big Star Wars person here, so hopefully you will run into him, I'm sure, in one of these. So, and to get back to that as well is you've been doing some moderating at some of these cons. How's that? That's got to be pretty cool.
It's amazing. Like I've always said, like, it just gives me an excuse to be a nerd, and ask the questions that I've always wanted to ask and get to know these people more. Yeah, I mean, recently I did a convention in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I got to moderate 4 panels, and it was with the cast of Ahsoka, which included Diana Leono Santo, Lars Mikkelsen, Amanis Fondi, and Rosario Dawson, which was unbelievable and such a fun panel. And it went so smoothly because they're just such engaging people and so like funny and down to earth. It was just amazing. And I got to do a panel with Timothy Zahn, John Jackson Miller, and Mark Thompson, which was really cool. It was like a Star Wars books and audiobook narration panel. And then I got to do a panel with the Fallen Order, the women of Fallen Order, Tina Ivlev and Elizabeth Grulon.
Nice.
And I have yet to post that panel though on YouTube because the voice acting and video game strike is currently happening. So I can't obviously talk about it, unfortunately. But that will be up soon once the strike is over. And yeah, it was just, I love moderating, and to any convention that ever wants to have me.
Yeah, there you go.
Please.
Yeah. To our audience, by the way, you should go watch what is up because it's very cool. But I'd like to ask you to maybe spoil it for us. I've seen a little bit of it, but were there any moments in terms of what people, how people answered your questions, or any insights that you thought stood out or that stuck with you?
Yeah. One that comes to mind was there's a story from Amon talking about how he felt Ezra calling to him before he ever got the part and ever auditioned. I remember he had seen something online called Space Aladdin.
Okay.
And he was like, why are people calling me Space Aladdin? And then he looks up Space Aladdin and it's Ezra Bridger. And he's like, oh my God, I see myself in this character. And then he calls up his agent. He's like, hey, are they casting for this? And they were. And he was like, I want to do this. Like, I'm going to be this character. And his agent's like, what? You haven't acted in forever. Why do you want to do this? And he just felt called to him. Like, I remember he said, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably not getting the story right at all. He was like sitting on his couch and then he like felt Ezra coming from like his closet or something. And I said some joke that was like, oh, it's Grievous or something. But it was stupid.
That's a cool story though.
I think it's really cool.
Got it like that, because there are some really neat stories, I think, from some of the characters or the actors, when they got there, things, when we were talking to Michonne, she was talking about, she went, she did her thing, and it was about a 30-second thing where you see Aura sing on the mountain, and she went back to, doing her modeling, and her agent came to her and was like, hey, that Star Wars character that you did is blowing up.
Yeah.
And she was like, really? It's sort of like a Boba Fett thing. You only see him for a little bit of time. But again, some of these characters are just, blown up like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
People like us engage in that and engage in those characters and bring them to life. Like even like Maul, where we got to see him come back to life. Thank you, Dave.
Yes.
For in the Clone Wars to bring
George.
him back. Yeah.
Thank you, George.
And to bring him back into that stuff, so I thought that was really, really neat, that some of those things do just blow up and we get to see more and more of them. I really like, I was looking at some of your stuff, that Bo-Katan cosplay is phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
It looks just like her, and I know you do a bunch of them, and I really like the one where you're coming through and you have your Rebel pilot and you have the Maul. And do you have a favorite cosplay that you do?
I would say I think my Yoda. No. I recently did Bastila Shan. And I am obsessed with that character, and I did that cosplay, and I'm obsessed with it because it's comfortable. You can move in it, and she has a lightsaber, a double-bladed lightsaber.
I was gonna say that's who you're practicing the staff moves for, weren't you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, dude,
she's great.
She's awesome. She's awesome. But
that's pretty cool.
I would say Bastila or Bo-Katan.
Okay. That's pretty neat. With your channel, I think it's so cool because you do the Lego builds as well, which is fun. Is there a certain thing that you're going for on that, or you just, it's Star Wars, let's go for it, sort of like we do here? I just post whatever I love doing in real life because it just gives me an excuse to like post it online, Yeah.
So I love vlogs and going places and like filming like that, but I I've been wanting to get back into gaming and possibly like interviews online instead of like moderating the panels. Well, like along with moderating in real life, like not giving that up, but like doing that online would be cool. But yeah, I want to do more Lego build. I don't know. I have so many things that like I want to do, but so little time. So many things, so little time.
Which Lego build took the most effort?
I would say this one.
Okay.
Right here. I'm still editing this video, but this thing is like nuts. It is huge.
Yeah.
Dang.
The X-Wing.
That's awesome.
But I still have actually underneath my desk right now is the oh god. Broke it, whatever. It's the UCS Star Destroyer.
Oh.
This thing is 1,000 oh wait, no. Sorry, 4,784 pieces.
Yeah, a lot of bags.
And yeah. So one day I will commit to that, but that day is not soon.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
My girlfriend and I have been doing, I've shown Ron, but we've been doing some of the smaller ones.
Nice.
To get a, you know, because every time I think about like, we could do a huge one, but it's a feat to commit to it. But I love it. It's so therapeutic to just go through and like solve a problem of like, what do I need?
I agree.
And, like hand the book back and forth.
Yep.
And we just did the Invisible Hand, Grievous's ship. It's very small, but it's very cool.
It looks really detailed. I've been wanting to pick that one up.
Yep.
I will at some point.
Yep. It's a good desk piece.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I need more of those.
Thank you for coming on here and talking Star Wars with us. And, you know, but we have a couple questions that we like to do for everybody that comes on here. And I know the answer to one of them already because you already answered it, but we're still going to ask it anyways. So we go through and we'll do some favorites. And we're going to skip over the character because we know you love Darth Maul.
Yep.
You know,
which is awesome.
Can't help it.
Do you mind if I ask what about him?
Lot. So his character is so flawed. Like he had every chance to tell the Jedi about Palpatine, but he just didn't for his own like narcissism and wanting power in his own right. Like he was a Sith assassin with a plan deep down, and just his whole arc is unbelievable. Like it just something about it draws me in so much. And his hatred for one man, Kenobi, like to come back as a spider after being severed in half due to the hatred of Kenobi, of one man, it just goes to show, you know, of course, how powerful Kenobi is, but like how obsessive Maul is. And I mean, I could go deeper about it, but like I don't want to bore you with all my.
Oh, you're not going to bore us.
You know,
never.
I everything down to like when the second saber ignited, you're like, I have never seen that before. Like this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Down to like the flips, and of course, like down to the martial arts side of it, like the wushu influence with the character and the dynamic fighting he did, and he just looks cool. He just looks cool, dude. And he's well acted by everyone who's played him. I love his whole arc, like throughout the Clone Wars, throughout Rebels, onto Solo. I love it all.
Yeah, and that was the thing. We got, like you said, we got to talk to Lauren Mary Kim, you know, and she did the Ahsoka part when Rey did that, and that was one of my favorite, you know, battles there. It was just phenomenal. You know, they both did a great job with that. So he's one of my favorite characters as well. But I also am a little disappointed. But hopefully, we'll maybe they'll do another book or something, you know, to add on to that Solo. When he came in at the end, it was almost like Rogue One when we see Darth Vader. It was like, oh my gosh, this is Maul, and he is in charge of the Syndicate. You know, I
loved Solo, and I'm still so salty about the fact that they gave us Maul, and then they were like, okay, that's cool. Next.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mean to get back into this. We can move on after I say this. But you know, that's kind of the feeling I get about the Acolyte being quote unquote canceled right now, is that I freaked out pretty heavily on the Plagueis stuff. Like I was a
Same.
massive Plagueis nerd as a kid,
Same. Yeah.
and wondering who that was. Book comes out when I'm in high school, and it's like my favorite novel in
Yep.
Star Wars, and see him for a little bit. And now, if we're not going to get it, I feel the same way I felt when we saw Maul, and then it started
Yeah.
becoming more clear that we weren't probably going to get a Solo for a while, if ever. Because we've talked about before, I think Solo is wildly underrated.
I heavily agree. I
but-
loved Solo. I mean, it gave us the story of how Chewie and Solo met.
Yeah.
I know that, and I'm sure you guys know this too, but like the Solo was George's initial vision for what he wanted the sequels to be.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine if we got 3 movies of Solo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, had that trilogy kept going, we would have gotten some of the best Star Wars movies I think we've ever seen. Like
And-
the formation of the Crimson Dawn and with Kira and Maul. And I did see in Star Wars Outlaws that Kira's supposed to be in it. So maybe we'll get a little bit of Maul. I don't
Yeah.
know.
That
But
would be pretty cool.
More Maul is a great thing. So
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, and I think it's great. It just everything that they're doing with this stuff, you know, and they're bringing it to the screen. Like, Rogue One was phenomenal. You know, these little kickoffs, but Solo with Ron Howard, you know, directing it. I thought it was cool that unfortunately the other gentleman bowed out or whatever happened to him, but with Ron Howard coming in with the background that he
So
had,
good.
yeah, I mean he just killed it with that, and we're both fans of that. I think it is. It's very underrated. And I think they did a great job. And for me, to know all that stuff about Han and Chewie and Lando and the Millennium Falcon, but to get to see it in live action for me as an OG, it was so cool.
Yeah.
You know, to see that and see him get his surname and eject the pod out. So now we have the Millennium Falcon, how we know what it looks like, you know. And so I just thought that was such a good job, but it was a little disappointing that we don't get to see, you know, maybe we'll, you know, get a book or something, you know, in Crimson
Maybe
Dawn.
one day.
But yeah, you know, hopefully
I could see that being an animation project, you know.
Yeah, it deserves a full-fledged live action theatrical release though. And they need to keep like Ron Howard and Bryce Dallas Howard. They just need to keep them in Star Wars because they're making some of the best Star Wars that we have ever seen.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so favorite movie?
Favorite movie, Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. That's pretty cool. I'm glad to see some of you younger people that like that as well. That's your favorite, because there's a couple people that the prequels or even like Rogue One and Solo, which again are phenomenal and I love them. But for me as well, it's Empire. It's just such a great arc. We're left at the end with holy shit, what's going next? You know, what just happened here, you know? So I think that's good. That's very cool that's your favorite as well. Live action. What's your favorite live action?
The series.
All the series.
Series.
Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Mando, Acolyte, everything that's been out. What would be your top pick?
I would say Mando. I really would say Mando as far as live action shows go. Yeah, I'd say Mando season 1, season 2, some of season 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how people they just season 3. It's like anything else, you know, for me. I thought that it was great. There was some things in there that we could change. Same with Boba Fett. You know,
I really liked watching Boba Fett.
Yeah. I mean,
I really liked watching it.
Solely for Tamura Morrison for me. I was like, put him on the screen the whole time, please.
So good. So good.
Yeah. And for me, it was cool. I waited decades for Boba Fett to come out of the Sarlacc pit, you know? So when that happened, it was just, it was
incredible.
So cool. You know, I would have loved to seen some of the bounty hunters instead of the kids on the colored bikes. But you know, it worked. The Rancor I thought was great. I thought the story with the Tusken Raiders, I thought that was really cool.
That was incredible, and it's so heavily underrated because that female Tusken warrior was one of the coolest characters I have seen in so long. I mean, she was played by an incredible stunt actress, and I feel like we didn't get enough of her. We need more. We need more.
Yeah, and I thought, for me, Obi-Wan was my favorite.
Mm.
The arc in that, we all thought, at least I think most of us thought, it was going to be about Luke. And when they brought little Leia in, I thought it was really
Yeah.
cool. Talked
So
about
good.
the goosebumps in the last couple episodes where they're fighting again,
Yeah.
Anakin and Obi-Wan or Darth, however you want to look at it. So I thought that was just so well done. I thought they did a
Yeah.
good job just showing what he went through for years and years just to stay there and protect Luke,
And Obi-Wan hadn't seen Vader up until that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, thought he was
And
dead.
he's terrified
Yeah.
of him, as he should be. I thought it was very well done and very well acted on everyone's part.
Like you had mentioned earlier, what a badass Obi-Wan is. I mean, he's one of the most underrated Jedis. He
Yeah.
beat Maul twice. He beat
Yep.
Vader twice. He beat
He
Grievous.
dealt with the death of his wife
Yes.
in the middle of all of it.
Yeah.
To the hands of Maul.
Yeah.
And his master, his
Yeah.
best friend.
his master. I hope we get more of Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Even with this cancellation, I think that we're still going to get some more stuff. I think Skeleton Crew will be, I think it'll be cool. I think it'll be interesting to bring some of these people in, some of these kids in. I think Jude Law should do a fantastic job. Well, I mean, what a great actor to bring into the Star Wars universe, which is really cool. I hope it's not as Goonies as everybody's talking about, but it could be cool to have some cute little fun parts as well. We talk about, Star Wars is for everybody, from people as old as me down to these young kids, where you have a Jar Jar Binks that came in and people were like, what the heck, but the kids loved him. He was somebody that had to be in these, and he made a critical decision in these movies. So whether you liked him or hated him or thought he was goofy, he was still a big part of what's going on in this universe. So I thought that was pretty cool that they do bring everything into that with the kids up to the adults that started with him.
I'm really excited for Skeleton Crew. I'm just, after the cancellation of after the non-renewal of the Acolyte, I'm nervous because I don't know if it's supposed to be I don't want to be left with another cliffhanger with no point of return, because it kind of makes me sad, just to say the least. Like, I just don't, it makes me feel disappointed and wanting more but never getting more, as a fan. And I really hope that we get, I'm excited for it. I really hope it's good. And yeah, I feel like I feel like Skeleton Crew is gonna be this generation's space Goonies in a way.
Yeah.
Not as Goonies. Like, I feel like it might be a Goonies Stranger Things sort of.
Yeah, I was thinking
vibe.
Stranger Things nailed it right on the head, because I think the benefit of what you mentioned, that the Acolyte, you're like, oh yeah, Star Wars is weird again. I'm not calling these kids weird, but I think it's interesting to do this kind of show, kind of what feels like out of nowhere, and to get Jude Law in it as well just seems kind of like a big deal. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of going into this with no expectation, just like pure enjoyment. So and I think that's cool. I think I put a lot of, I won't stay on this for a while, but I put a lot of expectation on the Acolyte, so I was so excited for the era in this story and everything. And so when an episode would end, I would be like, come on, like you said, I need some more context, please. And then with this one, I'm ready to just have fun and to see
not take it seriously, not take it so seriously,
see a little Max Rebo relative.
And I'm excited for, what is his name again?
Something funny. I don't know.
I'll throw a picture up with his name on the bottom.
Okay, perfect. We love him. I'm very excited for it. And I mean, we saw the trailer at D23 and I was kind of blown away by it. Like, I wasn't expecting what I saw, and it opened up with like suburbs. It looked like Earth in Star Wars. It looked like E.T. a little bit.
And
like,
I love that they're doing that, like making the galaxy more lived in. And
because there are so many unexplored parts of the galaxy, and I feel like the way they're going to approach the show is we've seen the unexplored parts of the galaxy. Let's see the most normal town.
Yeah.
And let's see those kids go to those unexplored places. I think it's going to be a cool adventure series. And I really hope people don't like hate on anybody.
Yeah. I'll throw this in here that the last time I felt this way going into a show was before Andor, and it became one of my favorite things ever.
Same.
So
same.
Yeah, and I think that's
oh
what's cool.
wait. Flashback to that question about best live action Star Wars.
Yeah,
I don't know why I didn't think of Andor. Andor is my favorite live action TV series that they have done so far. Point blank.
And it's such a good, I love because there's no Skywalkers, there's no lightsabers.
No lightsabers.
And again, we're getting back into, this is another part of the galaxy that
this
we
is just
haven't
some guy.
seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can picture yourself like, man, what would I do? If I were there.
And Andy Serkis was in it. So it makes it all the more better. I don't know why I didn't think of Andor. Just put this clip in that place of me saying Mando. Yeah. Andor.
Well, it speaks to the whole thing. It's another thing that I think by Star Wars fans is loved, but overall kind of was underrated and went a little bit under the radar for everybody. Probably for those reasons, it wasn't as recognizable. But that's what makes it so great.
And we're getting a season 2.
Yeah,
we're definitely getting a season 2. Which is cool, and I think it's going to be neat. I know they were wanting in the beginning. They were wanting to do 5 seasons of it or 4 seasons of it. But I think
we better get
neat,
like 20 seasons of it.
Well, I think what they're doing this time is they're chopping it up into like 3 or 4 episodes are a year, and then the next 3 or 4 episodes. So I'm guessing they're going to do 12 possibly. Which would be great.
That's what Star Wars shows should be.
Yeah, and then they'll end on that one going into Rogue One, which will be cool. I think that's so good.
That's gonna be because they said season 2 is gonna flow right into Rogue One, right?
Yes, so that's what they'll do. So we were 5 years out, so this will come, I guess, about a year later or something. Maybe pick up pretty close to where we left off. Right. Then 3 or 4 episodes will be 1 year. The next 3 or 4 episodes will skip, go to the next year.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So like that. So then that at the end, they're going to go right into Rogue One. So it's going to be fantastic.
Right. I have so many high hopes for this series. Like I know we're getting Krennic, which is gonna be incredible because Ben Mendelsohn is a phenomenal actor and I'm excited to see more of him. And even I thought about this recently. I think we're going to get Mads Mikkelsen in it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, to be Galen.
Yeah.
Galen Urso, I hope we do. Mads is one of my favorites, but we're gonna see Cassian and K2SO, and we're gonna see so much, and I'm so excited for this. It's gonna be I feel like Mandalorian Grogu I'm really looking forward to, but I feel like Andor season 2 is gonna be like the big thing.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
And I hope we get something in between those two, because right now there's nothing in the works. We've talked about this before. It was cool that Tales of the Empire just sort of nobody knew about it. It just popped up and people were like,
I hope we get something crazy animated.
I think we will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be really cool. And
I feel something brewing. Dave's doing something animation wise.
Yeah, because he really, besides the movie, he's really not, I'm sure he had some, input for the Acolyte in Andor, but those aren't really his,
I know he's working on Ahsoka season 2.
Yeah,
I think he must be, I think.
Yeah, which will be fantastic,
I'm excited for it. I'm excited for Ahsoka season 2 and also his Heir to the Empire movie.
Yeah, and there's big rumors about trilogies, so that should be fantastic. Yeah, because again, if you think with our movies or with the movies, you have them in the trilogy. If this comes out, besides the one spin-off step, but they're trying to do, I think, like a Heir to the Empire type of thing, where this first one is going to be a little bit more of John, and then I think the second one is going to be a little bit more Dave. Then maybe.
Oh, you mean like Mandalorian and Grogu is? Yeah. Mandalorian and Grogu is John's movie. Like I know he for a fact, like that's his baby. Yep. Dave's also working on it, but not in the capacity that John is. And then of course, Heir to the Empire, that movie is going to be Dave's baby. I'm so excited to see how that goes.
Yeah,
It's going to be interesting.
It'll be
What a
fun.
time to be alive as
Yeah.
a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Really, for sure, it is. So,
Yeah.
so everybody out there, I'm sure, like I said, everybody probably is already. But if not, let me know your YouTube and your Instagram, and we'll put
For
it
sure.
up here.
Well, thank you so much. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/CarlyKing, and my Instagram is @officialCarlyKing.
Awesome. And is there anything you got coming up that people should know about, or are you just going to keep putting out what you've been doing, which is fantastic? Obviously, you're just killing it.
Thank you. I have a couple cons coming up, some projects in the works, some things that I can't talk about.
Cool. That's cool though. That's a little
things-
suspense.
I wish we could.
Things
do
cooking
that.
up, things cooking up. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the future of Star Wars. And stuff.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're extremely busy right now with everything that's going on, and we just really appreciate you being on here and talking Star Wars with us, because that's what we do. Having such a love for it, which is fantastic.
For sure. Well, thank you guys for having me. I always love chatting. So let me know if you want me back on at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we love making the Star Wars fan universe as big as possible. So
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah. So thank you for being on.
Thank you. May the force be with you.
Yeah, and listen, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, like it, and put some comments in here. Let us know what you thought. We had a great time talking with Carly, and we'll definitely bring her back at some point here. Until then, have a great day, and may the force be with you. And we'll see you on the next Star Wars Jedi Chat.